right, welcome to another episode of the LogiCast. My name is BlankaKong. I'm joined by Gunner Eos, two-man show today.
Hello.
Today's topic is going to be about Pokemon cards, because, I don't know, it's something different to talk about. So, Gunner Eos brought this to my attention. He knows that I'm a big, trading card guy, and I've been working on the Pokemon 151 Master Set. I've been buying some product and buying some singles online, trading some people, stuff like that, trying to get a full, complete set of the new set 151. And so he brought this article to my attention: five most expensive cards, Pokemon cards of 2023. This article will be linked in the description, so you can check it out for yourself and read through it yourself. Some of the cards in question are the Arceus V-Star Crown Zenith Secret Rare, ungraded at $60, graded $106 to $190. Garantina V-Star Crown Zenith, $70 ungraded. Graded is anywhere from $120 to $300 almost. Charizard Illustration Rare Obsidian Flames, ungraded $55. Graded PSA 10, $500 to $1,600, which is insane. To be clear, PSA 10 is very hard to acquire. It's not you're not guaranteed that score, even if you pull the card out of the pack yourself. Like, there are some other things that go into the grading that are out of your control, like centering
Okay.
of the card.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask when you finish the list, I know you've explained it, but for people that don't know, what's the difference between the ungraded and the graded and the PSA level? Because that sounds like your water chlorine balance to me before you
Yeah,
explained it. But
I'll go into like a little detail, and I'm not an expert or anything like that. I just I just know, I know a little bit about it. So for those who know better, feel free to correct me in the comments. The I Know special illustration card from Paldea Evolved. It's like the Pokemon trainer girl with like the Magnemite hair style. Ungraded is $90, which is really high. Graded is $219 to $450. And then finally, the Pikachu with the Gray Felt Van Gogh promo. Ungraded $110 and graded $600 to $1,700, which, wow. So, yeah, so I guess I'll start with the graded, ungraded. So ungraded is basically just the raw card. Obviously, you want to put it in the plastic and in a top loader to protect the card, but when you get a card graded, you have to send it to a company that grades cards, and there's a few. So the main one is PSA. Secondary company would be Beckett, and then underneath Beckett would be like CGC, and there's another one that I forget. But CGC, I think, does mostly comic books, and they just, well, when I say recently, I mean in the last few years, but they just recently got into Pokemon cards and trading cards in general. PSA has been doing it forever, so like PSA has been around for like, I don't know, like 25, 30 years.
oh wow,
So
okay.
it's been around, and they're considered like the number one trusted source for like authentic grading with like a certain level of scrutinization. So like if you get a PSA 10 versus like a Beckett 10, a PSA 10 is considered to be like, this was true. This was like checked and graded by an expert, versus Beckett, which has been around for a long time. They've been around for, I think, like 10 years, but like because they just don't have the same legacy, it's just considered, a less authentic score. So it depends on who
Okay,
you ask.
okay.
It depends on who you ask. It's like, when you think pro wrestling, for example, you think WWF or WWE. Even though there's like other companies that do pro wrestling as well, like AEW or New Japan Pro Wrestling or TNA Impact or whatever. Like, there's other companies, but like when you ask a normie, like, hey, like, who's the best wrestler in the world? They're either gonna answer Hulk Hogan, Goldberg, The Rock, or Stone Cold Steve Austin, or something like that. Right? They're gonna give you some normie answers, which
Right,
isn't
okay.
bad, but like that's just, Or if somebody asks about anime, like, what's the best anime, they're gonna go Naruto or Dragon Ball Z or some shit like that. Whereas there's obviously hundreds of animes that you could talk about that are maybe critically better, but again, those are just, you know, there's a certain what would you call,
Right. So PSA is like the Nike of the grading
Yeah, I
world. They're
guess you could
like,
say that. Yeah, like however, whatever analogy you want to use,
yeah,
PSA is
okay,
like the standard. So
okay,
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, getting your cards graded by PSA is a big deal, which is why it increases the values of these cards by so much. And then obviously over time, as these cards come out of print, um, the value only goes higher because there's a finite amount of cards in that have been printed from those particular sets, which is what we saw during like the pandemic years where Pokemon cards just blew the fuck up, and like
yeah, they
cards from
really did.
1999 that were graded very highly were going for thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, in some cases $100,000 plus for like first edition Charizard grade 10. It's like holy shit, like here's $1 million. It's like what the fuck is happening? So the Pokemon trend has gone down. Like the market has kind of stabilized itself a little bit compared to like before. It's still a little wacky, I think, but it's not as bad as it used to be. I don't think there'll be another boom like we saw in 2020, but I think it's definitely injected some interest in the hobby, and for good or for worse, right? Like they're gonna be purists who are like, I'm in it for just the collecting purposes, which is kind of where I'm at. Whereas other people look at it as an investment opportunity to they see it as an asset that will appreciate in value, kind of like precious metals or anything like that, or like
Right.
or like pieces of art or whatever. Like people buy paintings not necessarily because they love the painting, but because it's like, well, maybe this will be maybe I can turn a profit in 20 years or 10 years or 2 years or whatever. That's how they look at Pokemon cards.
Okay.
So it's kind of like using the fandom as a source of profitability, which is kind of like gross, in my opinion. But it is
Mm,
capitalism, so it's like, okay, well, you got to take the good with the bad.
yeah.
Um,
Which is funny because the number one card on this list, the Van Gogh Pikachu, there's like whole like I mean, there's drama with just that card and what happened at the museum. Um,
yeah. There's even more drama beyond that. So currently, right now, I don't know if it's still going. I think it's still going. I mean, by the time this posts, I don't know if it'll be still active, but as of the recording of this, particular episode, the Van Gogh Pikachu is being given out to anybody buying, I think, $30 plus of TCG product from the Pokemon Center website. So you're guaranteed this card if you fulfill those requirements. However, there have been numerous reports of people getting the product that they're supposed, that they ordered, but not getting the Van Gogh Pikachu. So it's like,
oh,
oh, like what's happening here? Did they fuck up? Is there like shithead employees that are like not packaging the Pikachu in these like orders and just keeping them and then flipping them? Because at that point it's like, why package the order? Like unless there's like a real like unless they're being supervised or whatever, like they could probably get away with it with ease, I guess. I don't
oh
know.
yeah.
um so is that happening? Are they being selective as to who they send it to depending on what they order? I don't know. I spoke to one guy and he was just like, a lot of people have been buying Fusion Strike, and that's like a set that like nobody cares about or whatever. So they just bought a bunch of those packs, and
Oh, just to hit the the
just to
the
hit
purchase
the
limit. Okay,
threshold,
the
and
threshold. There you go. Yeah.
and so they're not getting it with that particular kind of order. They're fulfilling it with orders that are quote unquote more worth it for them. I don't know. That's all speculation. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of drama around this Van Gogh Pikachu. And quite frankly, for me, when I see stuff like that, I just simply turn off my brain to it. So like, I don't care about Pikachu all that much. Like Pikachu's kind of whatever to me. I know, sacrilege, but
Not the rat.
that's how I feel. Like Pikachu's kind of just there. He's cool, but he's not my favorite at all. That's number one. Number two, I don't care for the drama. Like I'm not into Pokemon cards because of investment opportunity or anything. I just like Pokemon and I like cards, so it's just a goes hand in hand. So for me, it's like I'm gonna pretend like this card doesn't exist. I don't care about the value of it particularly. I just, for me, it's I collect the cards because I like the way they look, or I appreciate the art, or I like the creatures that are featured in the art, or whatever. Like for me, it's real fucking like surface level reasons as to why I'm into the hobby.
Right. It's the ultimate simple reason. It looks cool.
I
It's
think it looks cool, and I like collecting things. So I get to collect cool things, and I get to flip through it once it's completed and feel a sense of accomplishment, even though it's like very bottom of the barrel. Uh, for me to say, "Oh, I have a complete set of gym heroes," it's like that doesn't mean anything to anybody, right? But it's like it's cool because hey, I have like it just makes me feel good. It's like all right, cool.
hey,
It's a
you
little
talk to
personal thing.
another card collector, that would mean something to him. It's like, oh shit, bro, that's fucking awesome. And then
Yeah, but
you,
then
you
there
nerd
are
out.
levels to it.
Yeah.
There are levels to it, right? So like I'll tell them that, right? Let's just hypothetically, I'll tell them that and they go, oh, "It's his first edition," and I go, "Oh no, it's unlimited."
Ah.
Oh, you're one of those collectors. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I guess I'm done talking to you.
Have a good day. Yeah, weird how that works with like um the collecting because I'll always remember when I bought what is it, Legend of Dragoon for the
Mm,
PlayStation, and there was a huge, not a huge, but a huge enough for me at the time, which had less income than I do now, between the regular version and the green Game of the Year version. And I was like, well, that's like a $20-$40 difference. So same fucking game. So give me the damn Game of the Year version. And I always remember the look the guy there at the store gave me. Like, I like it's just like this fucking poor peasant. How really you're gonna buy the green Game of the Year edition? And again, this was none of this was verbal, but it was just like
yeah,
I could tell from the look, and I'm like, bruh, just take my fucking cash. What are you talking about? I'm not here to keep it sealed. I'm literally gonna open this and play it, and I did. So, but yeah, there are people out there like that, and it's just weird, I guess.
it is weird, weird.
Ah, there you
Um,
go.
had to say it, had to use it.
Never forget.
Never forget. Um, Yeah, but I mean, elitism. There's that to say that 6 times real fast.
Elitism. Yep.
Elitism is something that exists in any hobby, in every hobby. Some are more toxic than others, but it definitely exists in the Pokemon card collecting community. And it wasn't always like that. Like it only became that way after the pandemic boom. Like
Yes.
that's when it really like because again, people that came into it were coming into it for different
Yes.
reasons than what I guess what most would have.
Yeah. There were
I don't
plenty
want
of
to say
people
what
who
was
didn't
intended.
give a.
They don't
Yeah.
care about the
They don't give a
actual.
fuck about Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah, they just know that there's a big following, and that following can be farmed for profitability. That's
Right.
really what it is,
Exactly.
right? And so, and listen, that's fine. Like it is what it is. Like I in a way I guess contribute to that because I do buy singles from sellers online, and these sellers could just be people who are just farming the hobby to turn a profit. And hey, listen, what what else can I do? Like I can't tell the difference from the sellers that I'm buying
Right.
online
You'll never
from.
know. Like, what is this like? I mean, a scalper is obvious because they're gonna overcharge you, but
Mm-hmm.
like we can't treat it like meat. Like when you buy meat, like, oh, sorry, I only source my Pokemon cards from true Pokemon fans. They have to show me their entire Pokemon library
Yeah,
from the Game Boy to the Switch.
there's no Carfax for this shit, right? Like there's
Right?
no
Yeah.
history. It is what it is a free market.
Right.
You could charge whatever you want, and people can buy
Right.
however high or low that they want to buy whatever the product is
Yeah.
at, right?
Did
Like
Did you buy a card from a guy who bum rushed a bunch of 10-year-olds to get to the Target card section first?
possibly,
Possibly.
possibly, there's a good chance of that. I don't know though, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the hobby, I think it's I don't know. Like it's cool that the cards are valuable, right? Like it gives me a sense of like, okay, well, if someday I decide I want to just call it quits. Maybe I can offload my collection and make some equity back, and that's kind of cool. But that's not why I do it. I legitimately just like the franchise. Listen, I'm 35. When Pokemon was like new, I was 10. Right, this is 1998. So for me, it was like a big part of my childhood, and it was a big part of just my entire life, really. From that point forward, I mean, I played almost every single Pokemon game since the beginning, and I've collected cards during like the you know the 1998 1999 craze where everybody was like killing each other for these things. I was in that. I was in the thick of that, and I stepped away from it a little bit during the Yu-Gi-Oh years. Yu-Gi-Oh kind of replaced it, but then I came back to it later. Um, I don't know. It's Pokemon's been a constant for me, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Because even if the new cards aren't appealing to me, which in some cases they're not, like looking through this list, like some of these new cards are kind of just really whatever to me. The only one that I kind of like is the Charizard.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna ask about that. So like, um, is it what makes like a card worthy, in your opinion anyway? What makes like it like worthy of being of commanding a price like this? Because I'm looking at the Charizard too. Now this one is PSA 10 can go from anywhere to from 500 to 1600. Now, like you said, PSA 10 is hard to acquire. And there's a big difference between ungraded and graded, like a pretty substantial price difference. But like, I'm looking at the card and it looks cool. It looks okay, but to me, it looks like a guy on LSD decided to draw a Charizard,
Yeah,
and like he just went insano. Um, while to me, out of this one, and like the Giratina, I don't like at all. I thought it was a tree. I didn't even know it was Giratina until
I
I read
know
the
it's
name.
Garantina, but like I still see a tree. Quite frankly,
Okay,
like
yeah,
I think it's kind of like I don't think it. It sucks to me. Like I don't like how it looks at all.
yeah.
Because
Like
the character isn't like super clear. Even
I
though I could
see.
see him, but like I don't know. It's just like
Okay,
uh,
when I zoom in, okay, I see him. But I just thought that with like there's all this fluff around it, and like to me, and this one is like maybe the lowest on this list. Is the Arceus one because it looks like an Elden Ring boss to me.
yeah, it does.
And like I understand why Eno is popular because anime girl and
Hmm.
anime enough said, anime girl. But you've shown me some of your trainer cards and I think that whole thing is just cool in general. The fact that those particular cards and cards like it take up the whole card space instead of
Hmm.
like a little box, and like they know it's a playable card. Like I'm sure it's tournament viable. You could bring this to a tournament and they'll allow you to use it, but like they know that this is like a collector's card. Um so they use up the whole card, they use up the whole little space to do artwork. And I think that's cool. But yeah, you bring up a very good point, like what, and like the whole Pikachu Van Gogh, it's what it's it's homage to the artist. It's you had before the whole controversy, you had to go to the museum in order to get this card. And then humans are gonna human and ruined everything. But yeah, so like I don't know, it's like a very wide tapestry of what is considered expensive or not, and I guess at the end of the day, it's up to taste. But
So there's a few things that
okay,
determine
yeah.
whether or not a card is truly valuable or not in the current market. So the number one thing that determines value is um, accessibility. Number one. So is it accessible? So these cards that you're seeing here on this list are harder to pull than other cards. So like it might take you anywhere from 10 to 100 packs to pull this card out of out of booster
Okay,
packs. Even
okay.
if you bought booster boxes, which has like a set ratio of like chances, like there are other cards that are considered the same value, right? Like there's a rarity tier list. There are other cards in the same bracket but like there's gonna be like a standout. So Charizard would be the standout amongst those cards, right? The other two cards that are also considered like hyper rare or whatever the hell.
Okay.
So that's number one. It's accessibility. So one, the card has to be hard to obtain. Number one. Number two, nostalgia boosting, right? So like the cards, depending on the characters that are featured, is going to determine whether or not it's popular. The market dictates the demand. So that's why the waifu cards are always expensive, because the people who collect these cards and can afford to collect these cards are the people who like waifu characters. So like that character is always gonna, like, this Ino card is always gonna do better than like the Lieutenant Surge card, because nobody
Right.
gives a shit about Lieutenant Surge.
Conveniently, it's always the female trainers and gym
So
leaders that do.
I will leave you. I'm not gonna go further into that. Right? I like Lieutenant Surge personally. I
Yeah,
have
he's
his.
cool. He fought in Pokemon Wars.
Listen,
Where's that game, Nintendo?
you were there when I saw the card with him. Like he was like with a Magnemite, like working on something. Or I was like, oh, give me that. And it was $1. Like that's
Right,
that.
but Erica was like 100
Erica's like
something.
$100, right? So it's like, okay, sure, right, whatever, right? So that's number one. Whereas like Pikachu or Charizard will demand a higher price than Pokemon that I like Mankey or Cubone, right? These are Pokemon that aren't very popular amongst the market, so those cards will not perform nearly as well as a Pikachu or Charizard or Charmander or whatever, right? Or Squirtle, or like the more like normie Pokemon is what I'll classify it as. And
Okay.
then once you get all those three out of the way, the next thing is what's the condition? Is it graded? What's its grade? Like all of these things factor into its value. And then once you figure all that out, it's like, okay, what's the some people go take it a step further and go, okay, well, what's going to be the value in a few years from now? Like, okay, let's look at the trends of the Charizard from this set. Like, what was this 3-year trend? Okay, is this Charizard going to have a 3-year trend similar to
Yeah.
that Charizard? And it becomes this whole big fucking rabbit hole shit of like stock market shit. Like, it's basically like the
Yeah, at
stock
that
market.
point, just do some fucking day trading.
So it's like, I understand all of that, and I'm okay with that because I can't change it. Quite frankly, it's just, it is what it is as far as the hobby is concerned. I don't participate in any of that shit. I buy packs here and there, right? And if I get good cards, cool. If I get cards that I can trade with somebody else to get cards that I want, cool. I like completing master sets because I'm a completionist at heart. So I will, buy a few singles here from TCG Player or from eBay, or buy, from a physical, person that I know. Whatever that looks like, I'm cool with that. And as long as I have the binder of all the cards, I'm happy. Listen, I have a binder with like cards that I like that aren't necessarily valuable, but I also have valuable cards in there, and I just kind of fill it with cards that I like, whether it's holographic or not holographic, valuable or non-valuable. I've got like what it's a mishmash of just cards. Like, look how cool that Machoke looks looking into the mountainside. Yeah, it's a 2 penny card, but look at the Machoke looking into the mountainside. Like, for me, that's why I have the card in the book. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Whereas some people will have like their book of cards that they air quotes like, but it just happens to be all the cards that are worth more than $100. And those people, not throwing shade, but like those people are in it for different reasons. They might like the cards, but what makes them really like it is the value behind the card. So yeah,
Mm.
I hope I answered your question. I feel like I said a lot
No,
there.
no, this is very interesting because like collect is a strong word. Um, I collected like most kids collected Pokemon cards back when it was early 2000s, late 90s when it fucking blew up in America. So, I collected like the original cards. I used to have a first edition Charizard and some bastard stole it at school. Um I collected pretty much up until Team Rocket, so I did like the Fossil line, the Team Rocket line, the trainer. Did I do the trainer line? Yeah, I did the trainer line. So pretty much like baby generation Gen 1 Pokemon stuff. And I had the same mentality you have now. Like, if it was an Arcanine card, I wanted it because I think Arcanine is cool. If it was an Articuno card, I wanted it because I thought Articuno looked cool. And then, obviously I would organize whatever cards I got on booster packs when my mom would say, "Okay, you could get a booster pack." And I would put it in my little binder in like the order of the Pokemon. So I get it. I get that mentality that you have where it's like, Mankey and Machoke and Machamp, they're not going to buy you a house, but you like them and that is why you collect them, right? You're not in it for the big the big payoff at the end.
No, I mean,
So,
if it happens, cool. But again, it doesn't. That's not the motivation behind it at
right,
all.
right, right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
Yeah. So
I
like
also collect other things as well. I'm sorry. Go
mm.
ahead.
No, I was like, because I'm looking at stuff I collect, and I don't really collect anything like cards. Like most of the things I collect, quote unquote, are things that I'm going to use. So it's like if I buy old 3DS games, it's because I plan on playing those games.
Right.
Or if I collect, if I buy a book, I might not read like a 40K book. I got it. It's an older book, which means it's out of print, which means by definition it's hard to find. But I'm not doing it because this book, it goes for like $50. I'm doing it because I'm gonna read the book. So like, I know you're obviously not going to Pokemon TCG tournaments or anything like that. You're doing it purely for collectors' purposes.
Hmm.
So it's just interesting to hear the mentality and the motivation from a collector because me personally, I'm not collecting on the same level as you, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense. I have a problem. Let's just call a spade, right? Like I collect all sorts of things from trading cards to video games to figures to trinkets. Sometimes, like I'll just like I had a spell where I was collecting different quarters, like because they had the quarters with like the different states on the back, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I wonder if I can
Yeah,
get
yeah, I remember
all
that.
50
Yeah.
states. And so like I've got like a jar of quarters with like the different states, and I have a document somewhere of like which ones I have and which ones I need and all that. So like I have a very obsessive, um, impulsive personality if I allow myself to like indulge in that in those feelings. So I do have a problem. I admit that. However, I do have it under control to where I'm not like
You're not
begging for
starving to
money.
get
Yeah, like
a.
I can stop, right? I can go, nope, nope, that's enough, right? I can like give myself a budget and be like, okay, we maybe I exceed the budget sometimes, but like for the most part, there is like there's a hard cap. There's like, okay,
Yeah,
I spent way
rent's
too much.
paid and food is in your fridge. So
Yeah,
you're,
yeah.
you're
My priorities are generally in order, so you
okay.
know. However, just to give you, I guess, a more understandable analogy, I know we were talking about model kits a few months ago, and how for you it's like the difference between buying a model kit and building it yourself and buying like a pre-made figure and just having it there. It's kind of the same with like trading cards for me. So like trading cards, I obviously collect it for the art, and for the the characters and like the history I have with those characters. Um, so it's like buying an art book versus building an art
Uh
book. So
oh, okay.
yeah, so like if I buy an art book, like today we were at a bookstore, right? And I saw that art book of like the Yu-Gi-Oh cards or whatever, and I was tempted to buy it because I love old Yu-Gi-Oh art. But I was like, nah, I skipped on it. Oh, I already spent enough today on other
Yes,
bullshit.
it's
I
other
bought a
reasons, but yeah.
I bought a Mega Man model kit, so I was like, that we stopped there, right? Like enough. But anyway, the difference would be me buying that book versus me completing a set of like the real cards in this binder that I can always look through. And the difference is like it would take more time and like dedication and effort to build this art book of cards versus just buying it kind of just a printed art book of cards. So
Okay.
there's like a story behind each card or each set of cards. Is like, oh, I remember when I bought this. Oh, I remember I traded this guy for this. Like there's like a little story, kind of like with model building. It's like, oh, I remember this joint giving me a hard time, and oh, I remember sanding this part, and like you just have like a more
Yeah.
intimate kind of connection with the model kit. And for me, it's like it's very similar with trading cards, especially cards that I have like a connection to from the past. So like there are cards like Yu-Gi-Oh cards, for example, that like I remember playing in the active game that like if I see them now, like I get flooded with memories. Like, oh, I remember this big play with this card, and I remember running this card during this particular year and how well it did, and it won me this tournament or whatever. Like there's like a history there. So for me, it's like to see a picture of it in a picture book versus to have the physical card in this like big collage of other cards that also have their own like separate meanings. It just does something for me, mentally and emotionally, that like I can't get from just an art book. So it's kind of similar to like your reasoning behind model kits, which I share that same sentiment. Getting into the model kit building is like, wow, this is a lot of fun, and I get it now.
Yeah.
Even though I still
Okay.
collect figures and stuff, but like I can see the appeal to model kits.
Yeah.
And so trading cards kind of fills a very particular or a very similar, it occupies a very similar space for me.
Well, okay, that's interesting. Like, so, like, yeah, I mean, it does, in my opinion, it does sound cooler if you were to kind of do what you saw in the book that today, but just do that in the form of the card. So, like, where the book would have Summon Skull, here's the art. You actually have Summon Skull.
Right. I have
I
the
think,
real card. Yeah.
yeah, okay, okay.
So like for example, I started a few months ago. Wanted to get back into like older Yu-Gi-Oh, like 2002 to 2006 Yu-Gi-Oh. That's like the when I really played, and that's like peak to me, peak Yu-Gi-Oh. I know there are gonna be some people who maybe play modern Yu-Gi-Oh and feel differently, and that's okay. Like modern Yu-Gi-Oh is fine if you're into it. It's just not for me. I'm just a boomer. Like sorry, I can accept that the game has changed. You have to accept that there are boomers out here like me and myself that will only be interested in old Yu-Gi-Oh. So I wanted to do a master collection of the first pack that I ever experienced in Yu-Gi-Oh, which was Meta Raiders. That was the second pack to come out in the North America in 2002. I was in middle school at the time when that pack came out, and I discovered it. It was before the age of the internet. I was in school, and my friend at the time was like, "Hey, you like Yu-Gi-Oh, right?" I was like, "Yeah, that show is awesome." It was like, "They have real cards." I was like, "You're fucking lying." And so he's like, "No, there's a card shop here that has the cards." I was like, "No way." So after school, I went to the card shop, and there was like a big poster of Meta Raiders booster pack with Yu-Gi-Oh, and I was like, "Oh my god, these cards are real. We can really play this game." And so I remember I scrounged up my little like lunch money or whatever, and I bought a pack. And the first card that I ever pulled was Tribute to the Dunes, which is a whatever magic card, but like that card and that set represent kind of like the start of like my Yu-Gi-Oh journey. And so over the last month, I decided I wanted to build a master set of that set, Metal Raider set. So I was just went on TCG Player and some other websites or whatever, and I started building the set, and it's almost complete. I'm missing two cards, and I have every card from that set in English and in Japanese in a binder, and being able to
Oh,
just
oh,
flip
that's,
through it.
yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I've
you
been sharing
showed
some
us. Yeah,
images,
yeah,
yeah, in
yeah.
the chat of like the
Yo, that
differences.
Yu-Gi-Oh censorship, I would have never known. they
It, yeah,
they
yeah,
covered up the booba, man.
the boobs were covered up for sure. Um, but anyway, I shared those pictures as like a meme, just like look how boob can't show the
But
kids these boobs or whatever. But but yeah, I started collecting those cards and being able to just like there are times when I'm just kind of sitting down in my computer chair or whatever, and I'm just kind of looking at stuff, and I'm like, I could just pull up the images on my computer, right, and just kind of scroll through it that way. But
yeah, you
I
could,
could,
but
right? But like being able to just bust out this binder and just like flip through the cards and take out the card and look at it closely and have it in my hand and then take out the Japanese version, the English version, and like compare the two and like, wow, look at the difference in like card texture and look at the difference in the art, the censorship decisions that they made here and there. Like, oh, this card was a holographic rare in Japan, but it was a common in English. That's interesting. Like just being able to do that is, I don't want to say priceless, but like very valuable to me personally. And I think a lot of card collectors would agree. Like when I say card collectors, I mean people who are in it for like the collecting reasons, not the investment reasons.
right, yeah.
Um, yeah. So like, yeah, that's why I like cards, man. I also collect Monster Hunter cards. There's a Monster Hunter art book that has all the art illustrations that they use in the cards from the 2007 game and 2008 game. That's not good enough for me. I need the physical cards, and I almost have a complete game set of those games. I mean, like like 600 plus cards. Like I've got almost every. I'm missing
Damn.
fucking like one card from the main set and then a few promo cards. That set has taken me almost 5 years to get to this point. Like I've been collecting them since 2019. And it's all been
Damn.
imported, right? None of those Monster Hunter cards are available in North America. Um, so I don't know, man.
Hey
I'm a
man,
big collector, so
we gotta fly out, man. We gotta fly, we gotta fly out
someday.
someday. Yeah. Wow. See, but they're like that I can resonate with because, like you said, you can just get the art book. It's simple, one-time purchase, bing bang boom. You can look at it and be like, "Ah, that's cool. Ha, I remember that card. Yeah, that's neat." But there's something that it's the chase. It's the getting online. It's like, oh shit, I need that card. That's the one I need. Maybe communicating with the seller. Doing a little bit of haggling or just straight up buying it, and then the anticipation of it. Literally crossing the ocean to get to you, and then like you opening in it, and then you see it. It's in your hands. It's there. It's visceral.
It's a beautiful thing, man. It's like
Yeah.
it's akin to like ordering something to ordering like a pre-made meal from like a restaurant or something like that, and then making something from scratch. Like it's akin to that to me, at least. I don't know. Some people
Yeah.
might disagree, but um, like I could tell you specific stories. Like I can tell you my Monster Hunter card set from the 2008 game, because there was two games. It was a 2007 game that was defunct. It only lasted like not even a year, and then they redid the game in 2008 with like more colorful cards or whatever. And at some point, I'll make a video on that. Like I'll show my collection and talk about the history
Ooh.
that I've discovered about it. But anyway, I know from set 2 to like set 4, a lot of the cards that I got from that set to which is in my current collection, came from a guy in Singapore who I was talking to online on a website that I never used before. Like I was just googling like Monster Hunter cards, and I was just trying to find something, and I just stumbled upon this guy who was just selling like this. I guess he was trying to do a master collection of his own, but just stopped or whatever. And this at this point in time, this was like in 2020, so this was like 3 years ago now. And 10 years ago, compared to when the guy was collecting these cards were in print in 2008. So yeah, I remember talking to this guy and like being real like afraid, because I had spent a lot of money, a few $100s on this sale from a guy in Singapore. It's like I'm wiring this guy all this cash. Like I don't know if I'm gonna get these cards. I don't know if these
Yeah,
cards are
man.
legit. Like I don't know. Like I'm
That's
really gambling here. I mean, it worked out. The cards are real. He did a good job packaging everything. So I'm grateful. And so like that's like a story I can refer to when I'm looking at like my set 2, 3, and 4 cards. Is like, oh, a lot of these cards came from this guy in Singapore who collected them. And I could talk about that story, right? And I can talk about like
right. Yeah,
that
there's some
experience.
history with the card. Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? So
exactly.
like that's not something I can say about an art book. And you know,
Yeah, the history is went to the store. I
I
have
went to
money
the
in my bank
bookstore
account,
and I bought
and
it, and here it is. And so yeah, I don't know, man. And so with Pokemon cards, it's the same thing. Like I'm into the 151 set because it's the original 151 Pokemon, which is what I grew up with. So a lot of people are getting back into collecting because of that set. And I don't know. That's why I'm into it, and I understand the economics behind everything. I get it. I haven't graded any of my cards. I know how it works, and I thought about getting into grading, but like the reason you get into grading is to flip the cards. Like that's really why you do it.
right.
So
Yeah,
for me, it's
yeah.
like this feels like a waste of money. For me to spend all that, because it's expensive too. You gotta like you spend like $100 to send out maybe 10 cards to get graded, and you don't get them back for like another 6 months. You don't know
Ooh,
what grade
okay.
you're gonna get. It's like I don't I don't know. I don't know if this is for me, right? I just kind of want to collect the cards and just have them there and be able to like look through them when I want to. So
I
I
get
don't
it.
know.
I get it. Like you said, if the situation in life changes and you gotta sell them, you'll probably be able to get decent cash for them. Maybe not 1,600 like some of these cards here, but enough. But that's not why you do it. Like that,
No,
it's you do it for like the love of the franchise, the aesthetics of the cards, and then the act of the chase, the act of acquiring these cards, which I can wholly relate to on that, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, you saw me today at the bookstore. I was like, in the card section, I was just like really fighting the urge to just buy a pack. Like, I don't fucking need to buy the damn booster pack, but it was just like,
Yeah.
you know, simpler time. Like, you're a little kid, you got like $5. Like, oh my god, I could get a booster pack. I could just buy the whole fucking box and call it a day, but it's just, I don't know. It's, I don't know.
Hey,
It's a fun little
it
feeling.
it's the same dopamine hit people get with gambling, but at least you have enough mental fortitude and reason to not go that
Give
hard
into
where
it.
it's
Yeah.
where it's affecting your like your living essentially. But in small doses and controlled doses, there ain't nothing wrong with that. And I get it. Like you say, you didn't need the pack, but it's just like you never know. Never know. I could pull some cool looking
Something cool.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get it. I get it.
I will say one last thing before we wrap up. For those who do collect, and who also have like a suffer from kind of like an obsessive OCD kind of like personality, um, don't allow FOMO to like dictate your decisions. Don't
Yeah.
fall into the trap of like, I want to complete a master set now. I want to open I want to open all the product I need to in order to pull every single card in the master set. Like, that's just foolish. Like, don't do that to yourself. You're gonna spend way more than you absolutely need to. You you know, just
Yeah.
moderation is key when it comes to things like this. And
That's a good
yeah,
point. Yeah, shop around a bit. Like, don't jump at the first offer that you're given. There might be a guy selling it for $50 less or however much less, and patience. Like the set you were talking about took you years.
yeah, the Monster Hunter card set. Holy
Yeah,
shit! Like, dude,
like it,
but it's so satisfying. Like, the fact that it took so long makes it even more special, right? So
right. Yeah.
it's
Could you
it's
have
fine.
burned through a lot of cash to maybe get those cards quicker? Maybe. I don't know. It's like,
Probably.
they're
Like, if I decided to spend an obscene amount of money on like flights and like communicating with like card shops in Japan, I could have gone to Japan and probably got a lot of these cards in one fell swoop,
true. Yeah, yeah,
right? And
yeah.
then that would have been over, and maybe that would have created some memories in itself. But like, I don't know, the path that I took, I felt was funner, better, it took more time. It made me savor the chase and the hunt and the acquirement of these cards or whatever. So I'm not complaining. I mean, I'm not. My collection isn't complete yet. Like, the chase is still going. I check every few days. I check my Japanese eBay websites and see what postings are up and whatever. Um, so it's not over. It's not even close to over. It's, so
And you'll probably find another thing.
yeah. And by the time I'm done with that, there'll be something else for me to chase and collect. So um, yeah.
Hey,
No
man.
complaints here, man.
We all gotta have our little things to keep us sane in this crazy ass world. So as long as nobody's getting hurt and you're good, hey, I fully go at it. I might even just join you just to fucking live tangentially through your collecting card escapades. Just
I don't know, man. It's a dark path. It's a dark path. But I will guide you the best I can. I'll be the best Sherpa I
hey
could
man.
be.
Hey man, you ever want to take that flight? I'll go with you because there's some other rabbit holes and stuff that I want to go to
Oh,
over
absolutely.
in
Yeah, the
Japan.
Japan
So
trip is
it's like,
something I want to do for multiple reasons. Multiple
yeah,
reasons,
yeah.
for sure. And they're very welcoming of foreigners, from what I could tell. So,
Yeah, as long
at
as
least
you're
in the
not an
main
asshole.
cities. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, which obviously
We'll
I'll
be
go in
good. Well,
there.
yeah. Well,
I think we'll be all right.
yeah. We're respectful. We respect.
Of course. But yeah, that's our episode. A little different than most episodes. Didn't expect this card episode to go as long as it did, but hey, 45 minutes isn't terrible. Um, but I hope you guys enjoyed, those listening. Hope you gleaned something of value. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Dislike if you didn't. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, man. If you had any
What's your
collections
stance?
of your own, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be cards. It could be anything, as long as it's not like human body parts or anything crazy like that. Not interested in hearing about that. Subscribe for more content. We do podcasts every single week. We publish every Wednesday at 12 p.m. We also do other forms of content: 2-minute reviews, long form gameplay videos, opinion pieces, tier list. You know, podcast episodes like this where we're just ranting and talking about different things, mostly gaming related. Check the description down below for the article that we reference on Pokemon card values, so you can see for yourself and read through it and check those cards out. They're pretty cool. Well, one's pretty cool. The others are kind of mid tier, if you ask me. Um, Check out our socials on the description as well. So we have our Discord, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that. We also have a Twitch channel. Mr. Esoteric runs that. He is not here for this current conversation, but he does stream on Twitch, and he's on a lot of our podcast episodes. Check him out, give him a follow. Look at his content. He streams 2 times, 3 times a week. He streams a variety of games from retro to indie to to modern games to party games. He plays a little bit of everything, so definitely show him some support. And yeah, with that being said, we'll see you in the next one. Later.
Catch you later.